Okay, next update. Main case is all washed up, looking good, ready for paint and assembly. I put my order in for bearings. Grand total, just a touch over $1,500 worth. So, not hateful for everything that's in it. Pretty big stuff. I don't know, 10 or 12 pieces, bearings and cones and everything. So, anyhow, she should be nice and smooth and quiet, tight. I'm really looking forward to it. Thought I'd show a little unique arrangement on these old boxes. That little tray area, the oil, the splash lube gets thrown over into this channel. There's a piece of sheet metal over this, falls in here. There's a plug with a magnet, so that filters it. And as the level keeps increasing, comes in, there's a hole back here, feeds through this channel, comes out the front, and that's where the oil pump is at, in the input shaft. And it very lightly pumps oil, comes in through the middle of the shaft on the input. There's a plug that feeds it into the main shaft, and another plug in the back of it that feeds it into the back box. And that's what lubricates all the bushings on all the gears. So it doesn't have to rely on splash and things of that nature. So kind of a unique setup. So anyhow, that about covers most of it. I got cleaning to do on gears and shafts yet before I put the cluster back in it. Cluster's still sitting here, got the bearings off of it. One of the unique races that presses in the back. You know, all in all, not bad, but you'll see there's a couple of flakes and specks, and not worth reusing. So bearings all in stock, not here locally, but within a couple of days travel. I told them, bring it in your next shipment. So should see it next week. So I can get this put in, get the back box bolted on, get the preload set on that. Once that's done, then I can start putting the main shafts back in it. It'll take a little bit, but she'll come together. I did order a gasket kit, and I'll be curious to see what all that includes. I don't know. The pictures are not true representation, so I don't know if that's going to come with the lids and the main case gasket and everything, or is it just shims and stuff for the ends? It's kind of vague. The Mack part number says it should have everything, but the picture they show doesn't. So time will tell. We'll get that next week. I did get a new throwout. Genuine NOS 1950s Mack. How do you look at that? Not saying that that one was worn out, but I think it was worn out. So for $29, a fellow up in Canada had it. I got it in, I think it was 2 days or 3 days. don't know if I bought it Monday or Tuesday night. This is Thursday night. Might have been 2 days from up in Canada. Made it through the border and everything. It initially said the end of the month. And the next day I had an update for Friday, and then this morning it said today. So, new fork. I will have a new throw-out bearing carrier, because this, of course, looks as bad as the fork. So, a friend of mine has one of those in nice shape, so I'll add that to the mix. So that'll be nice and smooth. And so, give you a quick, see those holes? That's where that oil pump basically just rattles back and forth. A little pin pushes back and forth and oscillates and pumps fluid and runs it through center of the shaft. That's where it feeds all the gears, sleeves, bearings, runs out the back and feeds that shaft too. Which it's on the other side of that, but anyhow, that was the reason why all that stuff got chewed up, because somebody plugged that hole. All right, well, until I get more parts in, that's kind of where we're at. We'll bring you back when I got more. Well, today's update. I had to make a little modification update to my stand that I built. The instructions denote that you have to stand this thing on end to be able to put the back box on it for final assembly once all the shafts are in it. So couldn't do it while it was hanging horizontal. So got a couple pieces of angle iron, welded on there, drilled the bolt pattern in it. So now I can have it standing straight up, put the box on it, come back down here and take that bolt out, use engine crane, roll it back down to horizontal and put the bolt back in there. And that should work out pretty well. I was getting kind of concerned how I was going to get that to work. So I think this will do me well. And it's 30 inches off the floor, so there's plenty of room for the input shaft. So that's handled. I got gasket kit showed up. It's a PAI. I got it from Woodline. Original Mack number 17B. This transmission actually called for 17C. I asked at Woodline, if they knew anything about it, and they weren't sure. So I stopped at R&R Mack the other day. He pulled up those two gasket kits and went through each individual gasket and compared apples to apples. And this kit has one gasket different. I think he said it was the rear bearing cover, which holds the thrust shims for the counter shaft. So if that's the only thing I got to make, that's fine. This kit was $28. So with all the other stuff, it comes with all the box gaskets and the lids and everything else. So for $28, well worth it. Only took a couple days to get here. Yesterday, I washed the counter shaft up just to get the grime off of it and all the stains and stuff. It's sitting here looking a little brighter and cleaner. I got the second bearing pressed off of the input shaft or main shaft. So those are ready to go. The bearings should be showing up this coming week. And I can get the counter shaft put in and start setting bearing preloads. The first gear I was going to put a bushing in. Well, once I mic'd up second gear, it's bad too. This one's got like 25 thousandths clearance, and that one's like 10 or 15. They're supposed to have 3 or 4. The other two, third and fourth, they got like 5. They're not bad. These two, you put them on the sleeve and they wobble around pretty bad. Not exactly sure what that material is. I'm hoping it's just brass, nothing too fancy. Can't be bearing bronze because you'd never be able to pinch that in a groove to lock it because bronze is cast and that would just break and chunk out. So I'm guessing it's just regular brass. I'll order up a couple of pieces, bore these out, make them new. I'd use my Dremel, put all some oil dimples in it, make it look like that again, get her to size, make them nice and tight. So that's pretty much the worst of it now, is getting those two fixed up. Everything else is done and waiting on bearings. So we'll bring you back when I got more. Well, we have progress today. The bearing showed up. Stopped at Akron Bearing. Got new bearings put on the counter shaft. There's a double set under there and then a single up here, and just a straight needle bearing down there for support. All the thrust is controlled by shim packs in here, and right now she's tight, won't even turn if I just barely put any kind of snug on them bolts. So I need more shims. So one of two things: make them, or give a call to a buddy and see if he's got a whole box that he's got laying around I can get some shims out of. I don't know, 10 or 20 thousandths maybe. I don't know. It looks like there's probably pushing 90 to 100 thousandths in there now, but all new bearings. She's tight. So we will continue. Once I get that done, I can take the back box off again, and then I can start working on main shaft thrust, where that casting sits in there, that double bearing that was wiped out. Need to get those set up. Once I get that done, I need to get a couple of those gears rebuilt, get some new brass put in them. But I'm liking it. It's a couple more steps down. So we'll bring you back when I got more. All right, for today's update, I got new needle bearings and seals for the cross shaft, for the clutch, my custom installation tools. I do have the one in there with the seal mounted up. We'll get the other. There's 2 on each side, 4 seals total. I'll get those installed and get my cross shaft and my fork on there, and we'll have that ready to go. I also, thanks to my friend Clyde, have a assortment of fish scales to check preload on the counter shaft. So I'll be doing that today too. So I'll bring you back. Okay, 4 new bearings, 4 new seals, all greased up, ready to rock and roll. Nice and smooth. Should work well. Now let's check on those bearings and see what I can do on that counter shaft. Be right back. All right. A little bit of playing around with clutch shims. Got 10s, 15s, 30s, 50s. I don't have the right shims, but just using these to stack underneath there to contorque it down to 70 foot-pounds. Got my little rope down here. And it's supposed to be 8 to 11, just pulling it nice and steady. As steady as you can. You know, I say it's pretty close. I was way up over 15 when I had 30 thousandths in there, or 25, and I had a 50, and I put 50 in there, and I could only get like 4 pounds, and it was pretty free. So moved her back to 40, and I think it's pretty close. I got, nah, string's gonna keep falling off. Anyhow, she's what I need to put in there. So now I just need to get 40 thousandths paper and get a gasket or a shim made for it. And that'll be done. I got clutch fork all done. The preload on this is set. I've got the preload set on the main shaft bearings, which sit right in that pocket. All I've got left is the output side. There's a double bearing on it. So I'll start working on that. I don't know if I mentioned I got bushings coming for all 4 gears. eBay, what a steal. $45 for bushings shipped to my house. So won't see those till about Tuesday, but I won't have to make those because first and second gears pretty rough. What do I do with them? They're over here. These were pretty bad, and I was going to try to make them, but through some help and a little bit of good luck on eBay, I got those bushings coming. So it is through a pile of bearings and a pile of bearings and piles of bearings. I got this all. It was supposed to have 1 to 5 thousandths free play with new bearings, and using the existing shims, it came up at 4 thousandths. I'm good with that. Put it all back together, thrust in there. I got to put the lock ring on it. That's ready to go. That bushing's set to slide back on there. She's coming together. So once the only bearing they didn't have right was the roller bearing. Goes in the input shaft, in between the input and the main shaft. The bearing they sold me wasn't the right ID, so that's coming next week. So by mid next week, I should have all the parts and able to start getting this thing bolted together. So I will bring you back. Okay, here we have the infamous double taper bearing on the output shaft of a Mack box. Heard all kinds of horror stories about this thing, and you can't find it, and yada, yada, yada. Off the shelf, ready to buy, no big deal. The race was a couple $100. I forget what the bearings, I don't know, 70, $80, whatever they were. Not that big a deal. For 20 years, all I've heard is horror stories about this stuff, and that's why it's taken so long to even get into this thing, because I was scared to death of it. Getting it apart and finding out that you can't do anything with it. But here it is. Anyhow, the existing shim pack that was in the old bearings, stack it up. I'll clamp it in a vise and check for free play. New bearings calls for 3 to 7. So just sitting here holding on it, I can hardly move it. So it might need a little shim, but throw it in a vise and I'll bring you back. So here's my official preload setting. Yeah, it's going to need more shim. The nut on this thing calls for like 800 foot-pounds, and I just got her snugged up in a vise, nothing too crazy. And yeah, you gotta loosen her up before it'll move. So it needs shim. Yeah, if you just barely put the handle on there, it'll turn. Anyhow, so I'll make up some shim. She's gonna need a lot, 20 or 30 probably, time you put 800 foot-pounds of torque on that nut. So when I did the main shaft, there's all there is that lock ring. So that's all the force that they put on it. But you clamp that vise down, I'm sure if you clamp that thing, it would need more shim too, but that's all that holds it. So I'll bring you back. All right, next update. My new bushing showed up. Genuine Mack, well, that's the used one. There's a new one. Genuine replacement bushings for good old triplex quad boxes and the such. I machined up some sleeves to press them in and press them out. Worked pretty good. I made a shoulder that was just less than the OD. So once I had it set on there and a few whacks and knocked them right out. So now all I have to do is put it on the new one, press it right back in there again. The little notches that get peened to keep it from spinning. But there's 3 different ones. This one, and another sleeve for those 2 gears. So I've got a new reverse idler shaft on its way, and also the new roller bearing for in between the main shaft and the input shaft. I don't know what I did with it, but anyhow, I got those 2 parts coming, and a friend is sending me some shims for the back box. Working on the shims for the output shaft. I need 5 thou. I got 10s and 20s, so I'll need to order up a pack of those. A couple of bucks from Maxer car. So that'll get that right at 3 to 4 thousandths like it's supposed to. So Saturday, take them down to the shop, give the gears a quick bath, clean them up, push all the bushings in. Of course, they all come in a couple 3, 4 thou small. So once they're pressed in there, put them in the pin hone and hone them to size. she will be snug. So I'm kind of running down to the last bit here. We'll actually get assembling it for good. So we'll bring you back when we get to that point. All right, next update. I have all the parts I need. Friend Kevin sent me the shims I need. I was able to torque the cap, get my string, and I've got the proper pull on the counter shaft. So it is now ready for basic assembly. I did receive the new reverse idler shaft. It's washed up, ready to put that in. Once I get the back box off, get that assembled, put that in, then I can start assembling the main shaft, which I received the last bearing. Also, that's what I needed. I tried ordering it off of eBay, off of the actual Mack part, and that's what I got. Not quite right. This is right. That fit. Get that pushed out of there. It's the right ID, but must be for something different, because this is what I need. I ordered that, got it off of eBay. Actual rollaway bearing, matching part number. That's what the actual manual called for, parts list. So, don't know what that deal is. And this is actually a Bauer bearing, and I crossed it, and it comes out to this. I don't know. It ain't right. Anyhow, $40, not a big deal. So now that goes on that. Warm that up. Snap ring holds it in place. The other half of it goes in there, held in by a snap ring. So let me get those put together. I get the box off the main case, get the reverse idler put in it. We'll start moving forward. So I'll bring you back.